One of the main things I think most of my students struggle with, especially when I start out with them, is essay introductions. So it's sort of like, how do you even start? What are you supposed to do there? Do you just talk about the play or the poem? Or do you, I don't know, like people do all sorts of crazy stuff in their intros. They go like into the deep history of the author and what they did, or all kinds of things. And all of these are really not quite the right way to start an introduction. So if you're watching this video and you're like, I don't really know the first thing about essays, I don't really know about introductions in particular, I always struggle. Maybe you're good at the middle paragraphs and when you get going, you feel quite confident, but starting off is difficult for you. Then I'm going to just kind of run through a few tips and pointers that will help you with that. So the first thing about an intro is it shouldn't be very long. If you're writing a 1 hour exam, for example, probably it should be like 3 or 4 sentences maximum. Don't spend ages on your intro. I once for uni wrote a massive whole page, A4 page intro, which I thought was brilliant. And then I got in loads of trouble for it because my teacher was like, what are you doing? This is not an intro. This is like a whole extra essay in itself. So yeah, don't do that. I learned the hard way. I'm gonna tell you now so you don't have to. Keep it short and sweet. Usually, as a good rule of thumb, your intro shouldn't be longer than half the size of your middle paragraphs. And the same with your conclusion actually. So if you think about the length, that's kind of roughly what you're going for. The other thing with the intro is, what do you put in it? So the purpose of an essay, which I say all the time in loads of my lessons, is to answer a question. Every essay question that you're given, regardless of what subject it is, what level you're at, it will have what's called a focus, which is the main thing it's trying to say or kind of focus you on. So you have to find the keyword focus of your question first before you can write any kind of intro or any kind of good essay as well. Once you found that keyword, your intro should purely focus on exploring that word or that phrase. So it's not an introduction to your poem or your play. It's not an introduction to the context or the author. It's not really anything except thinking about that question, looking at different angles of that question, and then coming up with what's called a thesis. A thesis is your main argument boiled down into one sentence. Every successful essay has a really strong personal thesis. So it's worth spending time focusing on making theses, being able to build and kind of summarize arguments. That is a really hard skill and it takes years of practice, and I was useless at it for about 10 years of essay writing. So if you struggle with that, don't worry, everyone does. Most people, I think, need tons of essay practice. So if you plan loads, you look at loads of questions, you think about them, naturally you'll get to a point where you have your own personal opinions on what that text is about, and you'll click and be able to write your theses. So to write a good intro, just as a summary, we want to make sure that we're not talking about the story and we're not talking about the background. We want to make sure that we're focused on the keywords. We want to make sure that all of the exploration of the keywords of the question in the final sentence of the intro boils down into one single, very clear, but also personal and developed thesis. If you can get good at writing intros this way, you end up just always structuring them in a similar way. So what I do is point 1, basically sentence 1, will explore one angle of the question. Sentence 2 will explore a second angle on the question that's maybe quite different from that first one. And then sentence 3 will be my personal opinion on the question, which is my thesis. So yeah, that's the short answer. 3 sentences, one side of the idea, another side of the idea, and then your personal take on that idea. So yeah, hopefully you're feeling a bit more confident with intros now, and I've not just confused you further and you actually feel like you can write a decent intro. Loads of essay practice is the main thing. So even if you don't want to write full essays over and over, which, you know, don't blame you, if you look at like maybe 5 essay questions and write 5 plans on those, that will really help you solidify your intros and get you really kind of on the way to writing a good thesis.